Hello, welcome back to school, 6th grade math teachers. We are excited to begin this journey with you as we explore backward design. You are the brave candidates that we have chosen to begin this journey with. We wanted to start exploring backward design because we noticed some things lacking in our students. While they are grasping some content or bits and pieces of content here and there, we noticed that there was a lack of deep critical thinking and also a lack of transfer of knowledge. So today we're going to explore what the backward design might look like within our instruction and decide why that would be beneficial for our students, for our campus. So what is backward design? Well, it's simply in the title. We are designing our instruction backward. We are going to determine our end goals or our desired end results, and from there we will gradually move to our instruction and decide what that will look like in order to meet those desired results. So let's kind of dig into the 3 stages of backward design. Today you'll hear us sharing about the first stage, identifying desired results, the second stage, determining acceptable evidence, and finally, the third stage, plan learning experiences and instruction. That's our final stage that we will get to last. If we're looking at identifying desired results, that is going to be not necessarily just the content that you want students to know, but specifically what you want them to be able to do with that content. That's going to get us to that deep critical thinking level instead of just the surface level of them understanding content at its surface level. If we move into determining acceptable evidence, that's where we're going to decide what types of assessments are going to show those identified desired results that we've come up with in the beginning of the unit. So what kinds of assessments might we put in place that show growth and student understanding? Finally, after we have determined those acceptable evidence, we're going to think about planning learning experiences and instruction. Notice that it does say learning experiences, and experiences is italicized. That's for a specific purpose. If we are looking at our desired results as what they are able to do with the content, and we're looking at those assessment pieces that show that, then we have to design experiences for students that help them to meet those results. Experiences rather than complete direct instruction is going to provide students accountability within their learning. It's going to allow them to take ownership of their learning, and it's going to provide a level of engagement that we might not see if we were simply looking at our standards and coming up with an activity without moving backwards from our end desired result. So today we're going to take a look at some of the standards that we might use in a unit to design backward and start with those identified results. You have 2 units in the beginning of the year that focus on really basic foundational knowledge for students. This foundational knowledge will carry them throughout the rest of their 6th grade year in mathematics, as well as 7th and 8th grade and so on. Now, Unit 1 is based on just your mathematical process standards. That's a very important unit, and we will come back to that in the future and design that with a backward design. But I really want to focus on Unit 2, because in Unit 2 you'll be able to see that a process standard is included along with the supporting standards for Unit 2. So this is what they look like. You'll see our mathematical process standard at the top, display, explain, and justify mathematical ideas, and that goes on. And then you'll see the supporting standards for numbers and operations. So take a moment to look at that. Decide how you've taught that in the past. What did your instruction look like? How did you design this instruction? What resources did you use? Take some time to turn and talk to your group about how you implemented this unit in the past. Where did you start? Where did you end? Okay, so you've taken some time to discuss that, and I've heard several of you thinking about seeing a standard and deciding what kind of activity you could put in place for that standard. And many times we think just about one specific standard in and of itself. So you might look at 6.2a, classify whole numbers, integers, and rational numbers using a visual representation such as a Venn diagram to describe relationships between sets of numbers. Well, that's great that you have these activities and ideas in mind. However, we want to be sure that we're thinking about what they're going to do with that information in relation to the process standard and in relation to the other standards that are there. So let's think about how backward design would look with this unit. I've pulled two standards that we'll be looking at and exploring. We're just going to look at a couple of examples of how this might look in a backward design model. You'll see that the process standard has been included for this unit, as well as the supporting standard that I just shared. If we're looking at identifying desired results, it's easy to simply pull the standards as they are and use that as our desired results. And we do want to do that because these are our state standards. We are required by law to meet these standards. But if I'm thinking about an end result, I'm combining that, and I want to dig deeper and I want to provide a goal that requires students to think deeply and critically. It might sound something like this. I want students to be able to adequately justify the location and comparison of integers and rational numbers on a number line and explain how this is relatable to real-world situations. So we've taken all of that information in our standards, we've kept it, we're staying true to the standard, but we're really thinking about how we can push students to think critically, and we're also making sure that we include the process standard, which we know will be implemented in several other units from here on out. So we're going to come back to that in a moment because that part's really important to keep in mind, that we will be coming back to these process standards throughout other units. So what will they be able to do? We've just described that. We've described our goal for our students, the end goal. So now it's time to determine acceptable evidence. We have to decide what types of assessments are going to put into place that will show what students are able to do. Have they met our desired results? Will it be a paper and pencil assessment? Most of the time, because this is mathematics, we will be using a paper and pencil assessment. But notice that in our process standards, students are required to display, explain, and justify mathematical ideas. So what kinds of projects or visual displays could they create? What kinds of justifications will you have students implement in order to see that they are able to do this at a critical thinking level, a level that goes beyond just sharing what they can recall about the content? Finally, once we've determined those assessments and the acceptable evidence for this desired result, we are ready to plan those learning experiences and instruction. So if I'm looking at my experiences in instruction, remembering that it does need to be experiential if at all possible, how can I expand intellectual engagement? If it is experiential, then we know that students will be highly engaged. We know that if it's experiential, we can differentiate on many levels for all students. And finally, if it is an experience in learning, we know that they will be able to transfer because it's become a part of their lives. It's a real-world situation that they can transfer to other units, that they can transfer to other content areas, that they can transfer to real-world situations. So that part is really important because, and we mentioned this earlier, if we are looking at our desired result, how is it connecting to our experience and instruction? If those two do not connect, then we've kind of gone wrong somewhere. So we have to be sure that in the end, those learning experiences and instruction directly relate to the desired results. So with that being said, I know you're going to need some time to think about this and process this as we explore the rest of Unit 2. So I want you to think about a think, pair, share, and you'll be looking at these questions. How does your current instruction compare with backward design? Earlier I asked you to think about what you already do within that Unit 2 or what you've done in the past. Maybe there are some things that we want to keep because they match a desired result, or maybe there are some things that you want to let go of because they do not match a desired result, or maybe they do not match an assessment that has been put in place, or maybe an assessment doesn't match the desired results. Think about what ways you see this benefiting our students. This could be long-term ways that it could benefit our students, or even short-term ways that it benefits our students. And finally, what ideas or questions are you still pondering about backward design? Now remember, we will, as you saw in emails earlier this week, we will be exploring backward design through a reading of Understanding by Design written by Grant Wiggins and Jay McTighe. Those are the foundational people that have created backward design, and we're going to follow kind of what they say and get many ideas from their work. So take some time. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think, and then I'll ask you to pair and share.